organizational meeting of January 8th, 2024. May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Balestria.
Present.
Mr. DeJohn.
Here.
Mr. Mano.
Here.
Mr. Minor. Mrs. Sabetta.
Here.
Mrs. Snyder.
Here.
Mrs. Talbin.
Here.
If you'd please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The purpose of the meeting is to elect a council president pro tem, and a council representative to the Planning Commission, and a council representative to the Mayfield Union Cemetery Board of Trustees. So I would ask at this time, is there a nomination for council president?
I would move to nominate Diane Schneider as council president.
Are there any other nominations? Okay, seeing none, we will close the nominations and cast a unanimous ballot. Roll call on this motion.
Mr. Balestria.
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn.
Yes.
Mr. Mano.
Yes.
Mr. Minor.
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta.
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes.
Mrs. Talbin.
Yes.
Okay, Mrs. Snyder is elected council president. Do I have a nomination for council president pro tem?
Here, I'd like to nominate Mr. Mano.
Okay, are there any other nominations for council president pro tem? Okay, seeing none, we will close the nominations and ask for a roll call on that motion.
Mr. DeJohn.
Yes.
Mr. Mano.
Yes.
Mr. Minor.
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta.
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes.
Mrs. Talbin.
Yes.
Mr. Balestria.
Yes.
Congrats, Don. You sure you wanted to do that?
Pardon me?
Are you sure you wanted to?
The younger, I might as well keep, doing what I can do.
All right. So next would be a representative to the Planning Commission. Do I have a motion for the Planning Commission representative?
I'd like to nominate Mr. Balestria.
Okay.
Mayor,
Do I?
I'd like to nominate Mrs. Talbin.
Ms. Talbin.
Miss?
Do you accept the nomination?
No, I don't. I don't really feel that I'm ready for that.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. Are there any other nominations? Okay, seeing none, we will have a roll call on that motion.
Mr. Mano.
Which,
On Mike.
planning.
Because Kathy turned down the nomination.
yes.
Mr. Minor.
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta.
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes.
Mrs. Talbin.
Yes.
Mr. Balestria.
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn.
Yes.
Congratulations, Mike.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Okay, next, I will ask for a nomination to represent the Mayfield Union Cemetery Board of Trustees. Is there a nomination?
I'll nominate myself.
You've been in a cemetery once or twice, right?
So, I got some experience.
Okay, are there any other nominations? Okay, seeing none, can we have a roll call on that nomination?
Mr. Minor.
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta.
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes.
Mrs. Talbin.
Yes.
Mr. Balestria.
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn.
Yes.
Mr. Mano.
Yes.
Okay, congrats, Bob.
Thanks.
All right, so that takes care of all the representatives that council votes on at this time. I do have an appointment for the Board of Zoning Appeals. I'd like Mrs. Sabetta to remain on Board of Zoning Appeals. And I have two more, which is council representative to Chagrin River Watershed and Euclid Creek, and I'd like to talk to members of council before I make those nominations. So I will turn the meeting over, or do we close the meeting? Do I have a motion to adjourn? Moves, second? All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Our regular meeting will begin at 7. I can't. Our regular meeting will start at 7 PM. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Congrats. Congrats.
Kathy, thanks.
Bob, do you want? Good evening. I would like to call everyone to the January 8th, 2024 council meeting of the City of Mayfield Heights. Happy New Year to all of you. I'd also like to thank you all for your vote this evening. I'm honored to take this position up here for this year. Thank you. I would also like to welcome our two new council people, Mr. Miner and Ms. Talbin. I know you both will do an amazing job for the city and for the people. Thank you. May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Balestria.
Present.
Mr. DeJohn.
Here.
Mr. Mano.
Here.
Mr. Miner.
Here.
Mrs. Sabetta.
Here.
Mrs. Snyder.
Here,
Mrs. Talbin.
Here.
please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next will be the approval of the minutes from our December 11th council meeting. I hope everyone's had time to read these minutes over. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Sabetta and second by Mr. Balestria. Are there any suggested changes or deletions to these minutes? Seeing none, I have just two typos that were brought to my attention. So on page 3, instead of Mr. Teresi, it was Mrs. Teresi. And then on the last page, it was Ms. Talbin instead of Mrs. Talbin. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Minor and Ms. Talbin.
Well,
Or abstain.
Abstain.
These minutes have now been approved as written. Does any member of council have any correspondence or announcements? Mr. DeJohn.
I hate to start off on a bad note for the new year, but I did receive a complaint from a resident on Fruitland. This resident told me that at 1589 on Fruitland, this is a flipper house, and they took garbage and they placed it on the tree lawn, and that was 11 days ago, maybe even longer, and it was there throughout the holidays. For some reason, Kimball did not pick up the garbage, so I hope that we can get this garbage removed, and then I also hope that we can revisit my legislation that I had proposed a while back. I know the administration is not keen on this legislation to prevent this from happening, but it seems to be happening a lot. So, garbage being placed on a tree lawn. And in this particular case, the whole tree lawn was filled with this garbage. I don't know if Mr. Mano saw that or not, since he lives on that street, but yeah, it was been there for quite a long time, so that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mano.
Mr. Mano goes down the other streets to get the traffic light so he can get out on Mayfield Road.
We can address it. I think that legislation would have to be brand new again for this year.
So we may want to bring it back to I think it went to the Building Committee last time.
Was it
Or no,
joint-
Public Works.
joint
Went to Public Works. So maybe who's ever on that committee, they can take a look at that again, so.
Okay, all right, thank you. Anything else from council? All right, we'll move to reports of officers, starting with the mayor.
Thank you, Madam President. I do not really have a report this evening. Just want to welcome our new members, and hope everyone had a blessed holiday season, and hope everyone has a great new year. And anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Are there any questions for the mayor? Thank you. Director of Law, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also have no report this evening, but I would like to note that at the last meeting in 2023, there were two ordinances that were introduced, 2023-32 and 2023-33, that were placed on first reading. And I would have done a memo, but I didn't know who the president was going to be. But they should be on second reading this evening because they have been referred to committee. So rather than voting on them, they should be placed on second reading because they will be on the committee when you set up a committee. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Murphy? Director of Finance, Mrs. Fagan.
Thank you. Per the codified ordinances, at the first meeting of January, I'm to notify council and the mayor of the account of their salary calc for the year, so that is in front of everybody's place, and if anybody has any questions on that, I'd be happy to take those.
Thank you. Mr. DeJohn.
Thank you, Madam President. Mrs. Fagan, you said that you would have the RFPs for us for this meeting, but I didn't see them on the agenda. So I'm wondering where those bids are, and who did we solicit them from for our engineering services?
I know that we did receive the bids in. They are in the process of being reviewed. I believe we received 3 responses back, and I see the mayor leaning towards this microphone, so I'm going to let him finish that.
Yeah, we did not solicit from anybody. We put out the RFP, and we received 3 proposals. Yeah, we reviewed them. I reviewed them with the Service Department, and I think the Public Works and Services Committee, once it's formed, we need to sit down and look over those.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Mrs. Fagan? Okay. We will now move to agenda of reports of commissions, committees, and boards. Since this is a brand-new year and there are no reports from any committees this evening, unless there's a member of council that wants to report on something that took place towards the end of this end of the year. Mr. Mano.
I have more, it's more of a, not a report, as a heads up to something coming back to the city. First of all, I want to thank all my colleagues for supporting me for Council Pro Tem. I appreciate that, and I promise to do the best I can for you. Taste of Italy is coming back. Park and Recreation is going to hold it on the 10th of February from 6:30 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. It'll be at the Aquatic Center, and the dinner includes an appetizer table, open bar with beer, wine, and seltzer drinks, all-you-can-eat pasta dinner with meatballs, sausage, chicken cutlets, salad rolls, and fabulous dessert table. Homemade wine contest. Submit your homemade wine to the Recreation Department by Wednesday, February the 7th. There'll be raffle tickets will be sold, various baskets and other prizes. 50-50 raffle. Tickets are available at the Aquatic Center Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Or you can call the Park and Recreation Department for a reservation at 440-442-2627. Ticket sales deadline is February 2nd, or when we're sold out. And these tickets will be $50 per person, and it's well worth every penny of it. Thank you.
We're happy to have it back in the city. Mr. Balistrad.
I do have a report.
Okay.
Public Works and Services Committee met on December the 13th after we had adjourned. We finalized the 2024 road program and the sidewalk program. I gave council a copy of my notes just so it's easier for you folks to follow this evening. We had a budget of $3.5 million for road improvements. There's an account 409-6103 in the budget that's for road improvement funds that had $169,542 in it. And I asked Mrs. Fagan if we could divert that, since those funds have been sitting there for quite a while, to the road program, and we could. So that brought up the total to $3.66 million. The proposal for the roads, as you can see, is for the curbs, aprons, and total resurfacing and refilling of those roads, the following roads: Alcester, Algiers, Aldenham, Piercefield, Dunfield, Annandale, Hansford, Suffield, Duval, and that small piece of Geesey that's on the north side of Ridgebury. The cost of that was about 2.9. I haven't received the final tally from the engineer yet, but the best estimate is about 2.9 for the resurfacing with the curbs and aprons. That would be 100% redone. 150,000 was the engineering cost. Then concrete repairs were necessary on Landerbrook. I think we need to do that for our corporate offices. Cedar to Lander and Mayfield, Golden Gate to the east limit of our border. All those concrete repairs came out to be about $526,000, including engineering costs, bringing the total to almost $3.6 million. And then the sidewalk program, of course, our budget is $200,000, and we were advised by the engineer, a couple streets that weren't done in '23, we carried over to '24. That included East Minor, West Minor, Bonnie, Golden Gate, and whatever has not been done on Kingswood. I understand our service department has done some of those blocks, but whatever we need to supplement, Kingswood would be done as well. So that's the program. I don't have the minutes from Shanisha yet, but then there'll be more detail within the minutes. But right now, that's the proposal, and I just wanted to give everybody a heads up before we go out on bid, in case you were asked by any residents, is my street being done, or is my street being proposed? You have some notes to give them, okay? And that's my report.
Thank you so much, Mike. This really helps out a lot. It's hard to believe it's here again. Any questions? Mr. Mano?
Mike, was there any discussion at all about that section in front of the aquatic center that's raw? I know we were, when we do Marsal, we were gonna take care of that.
The lawn?
But in the meantime, can we patch that in with asphalt or something to alleviate that situation over there?
Are you talking about where we proposed the sidewalk?
Yes.
I believe the service department filled that back in with grass. I know Chuck's here, but, and we're gonna let it go for the season until we do Marsal. The Marsal project is proposed as probably a $2 million, just to do one road, a $2 million budget we're gonna need to do that. So if you recall, then we had a separate appropriation, I believe, just for that sidewalk. It wasn't coming out of the road program, which council approved, but that wasn't done, and then we decided that with tearing up the road, we're gonna end up tearing up that sidewalk, so it was wise just to hold off on the sidewalk. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Are there any questions for Mr. Balistreo? Mr. DeJohn?
Just a clarification on this 3.6, that's budgeted for the program, but we don't know what that includes?
Well, that's the resurfacing of those roads, all the curbs, aprons, at 100%. Those roads were determined by the PCRs to be, subpar, 40 and 50%, in need of repair. And then the concrete repairs we needed to do as well, especially Mayfield Road and Landerbrook. And,
But you have the 3.6 and the 2.9, I'm a little confused.
well, the total for the whole project, if you add in the concrete repairs, is another $500,000, a little over $500,000. Add that to the 150 plus the 2.9,
Right here, Bob.
and you come up with 3.59.
It's right underneath it, 3.5.
Oh, I see it.
Okay, I didn't carry all the math all the way through, but
And Westerham was supposed to be on this year, but we pushed it back because of the building of the community center. Will that be on the program too next year?
when we do
Or this year.
Westerham, we'll do Sunningdale and hopefully a little bit of Bellingham, I think, and hopefully Marsal, all in one.
Okay.
It depends what.
This year or next year?
Next.
Next year.
Next, okay. Thank you.
It all depends what the new finance director gives us. Thank
Yeah, I
you.
know. Anything further? All right, I just want to tell all members of council to think about the committees and boards that you might like to be on. And if you could submit them to me by the end of next week, I can go ahead and start creating the plan for this year and who's going to be on what board, okay? Also, if you can submit like a type work week for yourself, who works, who doesn't work, what your availability would be, in case we need to have a subcommittee meeting, it might make it easier for scheduling if we kind of have an idea of what days you work, what days that you're off, or times of the day that might work best for you, so that we're not making 100 phone calls and making Shanisha crazy, trying to get a meeting scheduled. Because I would like for our subcommittee meetings to be within like a 10-day window. We pushed them off a little bit too much in the past, and I would really like to have them quicker when we call for a meeting. So if you can submit both of those to me, that would be great. Thank you.
And thank you for that.
Okay, we will move to comments from the public. Pursuant to our city code, each person will be allotted, each person will be allotted 5 minutes to speak, with a maximum of 30 minutes allotted for the entire public portion. If you are here in connection with an agenda item, this is your opportunity to address council. However, please note that this is not opportunity for debate, slander, or slighted comments. If you would like to be heard this evening, please fill out a form located at the table at the public entrance. During the public portion, I will call each of you to the podium. Please state your name and address for the record. And it is now 7:20, and I will open up the public portion. I have one from Mr. Chad Lichten. Yeah, I saw somebody else back there, but I don't know.
Hello, I'm Chad Lichten. I'm at 6295 Fairhaven, and today I'm sharing just excerpts from some books I got from Cuyahoga County Public Library. This one's called The Right to Be Safe. These books are all about bullying, which doesn't just happen amongst children. This says, note, it is very important to understand the gravity of peer abuse. Most people can really readily understand the harmful relationship dynamic that occurs in cases of domestic violence and spousal abuse. Peer abuse, bullying, should also be thought of in this respect. In both cases, someone is using manipulative, aggressive, and hurtful behavior to gain power, control, and domination over someone else for personal gratification. Also, in both cases, the individual being abused is not responsible for the abuse and should not be expected to stop it. Too often, in bullying situations, we blame the people being targeted for their situation and chastise them for not doing enough to get out of the situation. This quite simply is unfair and dangerous attitude. People who are being abused need others' help to stop their abuse and should never be held responsible for the abuse. This is a book more for adults. Those are more for children. This is like a kid's book, but go through the kid's book. This is more for kids to learn about bullying. This says, if I see bullying at my school sometimes, but I'm not really involved, it's better to stay out of it, right? No. If you see bullying, you are involved. Many times there are 3 people or even more involved with bullying. The first is the person who bullies, the second is the person being bullied, and the third is anyone who knows it's happening. Guess who has the most power out of these people? Hint, it's not the person who bullies. It's the people who know it's happening. They are the ones with the power to stand up to bullying. This book goes deep. It's very good. I want to read the rest. I've only read some of it. It's called Bully Nation: How the American Establishment Creates a Bullying Society. I just highlighted some sections. Moreover, within the psychological paradigm, the bullies and the bullied are at all a particular type of person. They are children or young people. Their bullying is usually seen as a nearly inevitable part of growing up, especially as students in grammar schools, high schools, or colleges and universities. The focus on young people is a second and critically important dimension of the bullying current bowling paradigm. The bowling world is populated by kids, adults, especially parents and counselors and teachers are affected, but they are not central players in the direct bowling drama. They are rarely highlighted as bullies or the bullied. As we shall show shortly, both of these assumptions that bowling is mainly behavior by individuals and that it specifically involves kids are wrong. They take the spotlight off the world of adults, which is itself a vast arena of bowling and has a pivotal role in creating the bowling world of children. We can see the psychological paradigm conveyed in books written for children. A typical example is Bullies Are a Pain in the Brain by Trevor Romaine. On the second page, the book reinforces the idea that bullying is normal and universal. Quote, everyone has been bullied at some point, end quote. This declaration ignores the fact that for some children and adults, bullying is an occasional dismissible event, but for others, it is a constant life-defining torment. Nor does it address the fact that certain categories of people are far more likely to attract bullying than others. Romaine says, quote, bullies are people with problems, end quote, suggesting that bullying is purely a psychological condition. This assertion negates the reality that bullying is a privilege that comes with power. And it is beneficial to some people and institutions that have an interest in perpetuating bullying relationships. Romaine reassures his readers, quote, no matter what a bully says, you're not a dork, wimp, teacher's pet, dummy, crybaby, jerkface, or knucklehead. And anything a bully says about your race, family, gender, or national heritage simply isn't true, end quote. Bully victims may not find this very reassuring and may question the sincerity of adult authorities who make such comments, when they themselves know that they are from minority groups or are gay, clumsy, physically weak, handicapped, socially outcast, vulnerable, not conventionally attractive, introverted, bookish, or dependent upon adult protection.
Mr. Licton, you had 5 minutes.
Did I? Well, I'm
Yeah.
finished, so
Did
perfect.
you want to wrap it up real quick? Is there something you need to say?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Would anyone else like to be heard this evening? Mr. Ward.
Just a few announcements. Mr. Mano mentioned that the Taste of Italy is coming up on February 10th. So for those of you who haven't been involved, it's a great event. So we'd love to have you there. We're always open for donations for baskets. So if you have any donations you'd like to make, you know how to get a hold of us. We've also started booking rooms at the community center. Residents can call for more information or to schedule a tour. We've had a number of people sign up and a number of tours taking place, so it's quite busy over at the Aquatic and Community Center. So it was requested of me to give an update on the building and what's still left to kind of get done. If you drive by, you see them working on the metal beams. That's kind of the beams and they have to wrap the columns on the portico, and then once they're done with that, then they can finish the roof, and that portion of the building will be done. We also have surfacing on the playground that needs to be done, but it can't be done until the spring when the weather warms up, so they can put that top layer of rubber surfacing on. And then once that's done, they can come back in with the fencing around the playground. I know that's been a question that I get a lot is, are we fencing that playground in? So once the surfacing is in, we'll fence that in and be done. And then finally, we will be looking to install a key fob on the fitness room so that we can control that. And so hopefully that will be happening by the end of the month. Same with the metal panels. Those hopefully will be complete by the end of the month. So fingers crossed that the building portion might be done by the time the Taste of Italy is here. So, and then there were some questions about the fitness room. The fitness room will be a 55-plus room for residents. Like I said, hopefully by the end of the month it'll be open, and we will have a seasonal schedule based on how the building is being utilized. So we see that currently being like 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and then 8 to 4 on Friday. And we're gonna have to try to figure out the weekends to see what we should do there. So if there's any questions, reach out to me with a call or email, and we'll try to get you more information. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the update. All right. Is there anybody else that would like to be heard this evening? Come on up. Hi. Can you press the button so we can hear you? Perfect.
I am
Thank you.
John Molchan, live at 1966 Reeds Court Trail in Westlake, Ohio. I didn't come here to bully anybody about anything. I came here to sincerely thank the council and the mayor, one of the owners of the new public storage across from Best Buy. And I just wanted to thank you all, and the building department in particular. We've built a $15 million building and another building, and the building department were probably described as a bunch of bullies. That's not the case here. Everybody was incredibly helpful. Brayton Thomas was awesome, and I just wanted to say thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you. We appreciate that. Is there anybody else this evening that would like to be heard? Okay, I will close the public portion. It is 7:30. We'll begin with Resolution 2024-01. Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Resolution 2024-1, a resolution awarding a contract to Roniak Paving, Inc. for the Mayfield Road Median Island Improvement Project in accordance with the bid specifications and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules? Moved by Mr. Mano, second by Mrs. Sabetta. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mr. Mano. Mr. Balestria.
Yes.
Mr. DeJean.
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta.
Yes.
Ms. Taubin.
Yes.
Mr. Minor.
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Moved by Mr. Balestria,
Second.
second by Mrs. Sabetta. This resolution pertains to the Mayfield Road Median Project. This area has been here for about 20 years, and there has been some crumbling of the wall in an area that has been maintained and as best as it can be by our service department. This is an area that the mayor has been working with our city engineer and our service department to redesign and fix this area. I believe that funding will come from the ARPA funds. I did ask Mr. Chuney to provide a picture if he could, and I also spoke with Mr. Brunello about going over the project with us. So if the two of you would like to talk about the project, I know there's been some questions from council.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. I am passing out a picture. It's just a Google Earth street view shot of what the median looks like under the bridges there on 271, Mayfield under 271. That's what it's going to look like when it's done. Right now, we have walls up there with plantings and trees and sprinkler system and electrical outlets, and all that's going to come out, and it's going to look just like that picture there. You kind of can compare the two. You see the walls on one side and then the regular raised median in between. It's my understanding the Public Works Department is going to be putting some planters out there and doing some plantings of their, which I don't know anything about yet, but what that's going to look like. But then until they do that, it's just going to be a raised concrete island. We got 10 bids, very good. The number is a good number, and I recommend you award this to Roniak. Thank you.
Are there any questions from council? Mr. DeJean.
So exactly what are you going to do? Just tear everything out?
Correct.
Plumbing, sprinkling systems, but we don't know what's going to go there.
Yeah, other than the waterfall will stay, and that requires electricity and a water connection, obviously, and a pump. So that'll stay on the western end of that one median, and there'll be a little wall on either side of the waterfall area. Other than that, it's going to be a raised concrete median, and then the Public Works Department then will take over and do their landscaping with a plan that I haven't seen yet, but maybe they know.
Yeah, maybe Mr. Brunello can give us a little bit more information.
Good evening. So Joe pretty much hit the nail on the head. So the waterfall will be staying, it's going to be stepped down from, it's going to match the existing side, and it's going to be stepped down behind it as well. So it'll flow. All that area will be redone with block, because that area is essentially crumbling as well. It's been hit by cars multiple times. So we have the material to rebuild that section of the wall so it still stays nice. And then from that part down, it'll just, like Joe said, will be poured cement. We've been working with the mayor on specific planners we'd like to see, and we haven't narrowed that down yet because of the size, and we just haven't got to that point. It'll be flowers planted all the way down, and we have the means to water those planters with a water truck versus leaving a water line intact on Mayfield Road. We didn't think it was a good idea to have electric and water stubbed out of the ground just in the event of a car hitting it or being damaged throughout the course of the winter.
Is there a way that we can leave the electric in case you wanted to light the planters or have, I know we've done things over the holiday seasons.
I'm sure there's a way we can leave a box. We're leaving the side of the waterfall, but the western side of that. But yes, the eastern side. I don't think we had one outlet. Yeah, okay. So there will be one plug on that side.
On both sides, on just the one side?
Yeah,
One plug on that side.
one plug on the eastern side, and then on the west side of it will have power because of the
So
the
we
water
will
feature.
keep power just in case we want it.
Yeah, there'll be power and water on the western side for that water, because that waterfall has a built-in water line, so it never runs dry. It has an auto fill system. So that'll be a water line on that side, and power, yeah.
Power on the east side.
Just power on these.
Yes,
Well, we need power on the west as well,
Got it on both, but-
yeah.
okay.
And Mr. Balestra, you had a comment?
Yeah, Ms. Brunel, the island that we're seeing here on the far east part of the picture is just going to be one?
It'll just be, as far as I know, it's just one, it'll be.
Just the one
yeah.
built-up island that we see in the picture, or is this going to be totally?
It'll be cement all the way.
All the way down?
All the way
So
down.
this is a misnomer here. This is not what we're going to see as far as,
I tried to show you a picture of what's there and what's going to be there when it's done. That's why I
okay.
selected that.
So this is not something that you're going to leave?
Correct.
So totally taking everything out?
That's
and
correct.
The eastern end will have nothing but planters or whatever you guys
That's it,
decide?
yep.
Big casks with a, I talked to Mr. Fatika at one point, and I guess maybe the idea was possibly to have those big planters where you could put trees, where you guys could take them out during the winter or something like that, so the salt wouldn't affect them.
Yeah, I mean, I think the plan is to have flowers in there, so they wouldn't, and nothing would be damaged throughout the course of the winter. It would just be a spring through fall.
Leave it.
Yeah. But again, it's whatever the administration would like to see there and whatever,
Okay.
so.
All right, thanks.
Madam Chair?
Mayor?
Well, it's been really difficult trying to find planters to put there. Extremely difficult. The first thought was, let's put like a colorful planter there, something that was nice. But considering how much they get hit and the cost, it was maybe we better not do that. So we're exploring all the options we have, but it's been very difficult to find something that we could put there and maybe, like we've been talking, remove it in the winter, but who knows? I mean, we're still looking, so. But I think the most important thing is to just get rid of what is crumbling, and at least that'll look nicer than, what's there now, so.
Yeah, for sure. The wall's been hit, I would say, a dozen times, Chief, somewhere in that ballpark. Yeah, it's been hit quite a bit, unfortunately, over the course of its life.
Ms. Talbot?
Yeah, I have a question, and I know I asked both of you this today, and you didn't have an answer for me, so I'm wondering who could, because in the resolution, it says that this project, this is under Section 1, will improve and enhance transportation in the city. So I would like to know how. Unless
I
that
think
was
improving
just,
it is basically improving what is there now and removing the obstacle that is there. I think it improves safety there.
okay. This says it improves transportation, so I couldn't have a visual about how removing that is improving transportation. So they weren't sure, and so I figured maybe somebody else knew why that was included, because I just didn't understand.
What about
People won't hit it.
What, yeah.
People won't hit it.
Yeah, maybe they won't look, maybe they won't
That's
look at the, maybe
that
they
word-
won't look at the
we
condition
call
of it.
that reducing accidents. But I just wanted to clarify that. And I also we talked about the fact that the trees would be removed, right? And they're diseased. and
That's
so-
correct. The contractor had Davy Tree come out on their behalf, and their arborist did inform us that those trees are in fact diseased with a disease called black knot. And if they are removed, they will not make it through, so, yeah.
So this extra cost here would not be needed anymore because we're not going to try and save something that's dying.
I would not spend the extra money
Yeah,
at this point in
right.
time, not based on that
I would
information.
approve the base bid only,
You-
not the alternate. If that was in
Not the alternate,
so
yeah.
Base bid only, you should approve.
Right. So we would not be voting on we're not going to use the alternate that's included here.
I wouldn't suggest.
So the total amount of the cost is $231,675?
228,
Yeah, that was the,
228, 425.
that's not what I have in my resolution.
That's the base bid.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in the resolution, it has the full bid.
Included the alternate.
200 with, right. Mr. Murphy?
The base bid is 228,425. The additional 3,250 is to preserve the trees. If you're not going to preserve the trees, then that would just non-perform that, and the final cost would end up being the 228. You can either change that in the resolution or just non-perform it in the contract.
Non-performant, that's, yeah.
In the resolution.
So it'll just be, the final contract then will be 228,425. You don't have to change the resolution.
Okay. And Mr. Brunello had said that the additional funding would come from, because we only have 200,000.
That's correct. So we were able to save roughly $87,000 on the generator project, which also was ARPA fund, dedicated ARPA funds as well. So we were able to get a grant to help offset that cost, which would in turn money back to this project to cover the difference.
So if there's any money left over from that, possibly we can use that towards the planters or whatever we're going to do?
I don't know if
Set
planters
aside-
would meet the
The requirements? I don't know.
We'd have to look at that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, perfect. Are there any, Mr. DeJohn?
Will you have something in place by springtime as far as planters go? Because I'd hate to see you rip everything out and then just have this barren concrete there.
I'll do my best to look for some stuff, and I could, if I find anything that's feasible and cost efficient, I'll send it over to you all and meet with the mayor to discuss. The last time that I looked, this is probably about a year ago, Mayor, they were close to $2,500 a piece for example, the planter boxes that are outside of Brown Stadium, those big cement, there was something that we had an idea of that. Those were roughly at that point, they were $2,500.
Mayor?
Which might not be a bad idea because, and we're still kicking these ideas around because somebody hits that, their insurance takes care of it, and boom, you replace one planter. You don't have to worry about replacing a whole wall. So it could be something, but I think they were too big for what we wanted them for. So we're still looking, but I don't think that's, something like that, I think, is a good idea, so.
Just an idea, I don't know if you've reached out to like Euclid Creek or Chagrin River Watershed. When they do some of their big projects, they incorporate some plants into some of these types of planters at some of their parks. And that's an idea, maybe they have an idea for you.
Yeah, I have no problem reaching out to anybody to get some ideas and see what things cost nowadays and see if we can get anything on a grant basis or something like that.
Perfect,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you both.
Madam-
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms.
Could-
Talbot.
Could we also consider possibility of signage? Something that really talks about of our city when people come off those freeways, and/or beautify the grass areas, or do something to actually make those exits off the freeway, since they're like our front yard, our front door, something that really does something to highlight our city.
Madam Chair?
Maybe.
Yeah, we've talked about this in the past. That's state property.
Oh.
Yeah. The Cloverleaf is state property. Yeah.
Okay. But the
And
curb
the-
is ours.
Yeah, well, and I worry about putting things that people have to read as they're coming off the freeway. I don't know, I'm a little hesitant at that, but maybe something, this was a while ago when Mayfield, the high school reached out to try and collaborate with us, and we were trying to maybe get some students involved in beautifying the bridges underneath the bridges. So that could be a possibility that we explore that again. But that project kind of got put on hold by the high school, but we could revisit that. But I agree with you. That is, that's the entrance to our city. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Anything further? Okay, thank you both for explaining all of this
No
to
problem.
us. All right, roll call on the motion to approve.
Mr. DeJohn,
Yes.
Mr. Minor,
Yes.
Ms. Tobin,
Yes.
Mr. Balestria,
Yes?
Mr. Mano,
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta,
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. Resolution 2024-1 has been approved. We will now move to ordinances of 2023-32.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ordinance number 2023-32, an ordinance amending Chapter 121 of the codified ordinances of the city titled Council by amending Section 121.021 to create an Economic Development Committee of Council. Second reading.
Okay, this ordinance was asked to be placed on second reading, and I would like to, as soon as the legislative committee meeting, committee has been chosen, put this in their hands to take a look at this as soon as possible, if that would be okay by this council. All right. We're going to move to ordinance number 2023-33. Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ordinance number 2023-33, an ordinance amending Chapter 1195 of the codified ordinances of the city titled Supplementary Regulations by amending Section 1195.01 regarding prohibited uses. Second reading.
This also was recommended by our law director to place on second reading, so I would also like to defer this ordinance to our legislative committee once this committee has been formed.
Mrs. Snyder?
They're going to be busy. Mr. Valstra.
Just a question for the law director. Since we have this unauthorized uses for land in front of us, would it be appropriate to add to that list the bed and breakfast that we do every 6 months or 3 months or 6 months as and not an appropriate use for land use in our city? I mean, could it be added? I guess I'm looking for an opinion.
Certainly, it could be added. Whether or not to add it and where to add it would be the question for council. I'm not sure this would be the best place. Certainly, it would be a possibility, but there
Yeah.
would be perhaps a better place to add something regarding the bed and breakfast.
The ordinance is just with regard to prohibited uses, so we could prohibit that use.
If that's what council wanted to do.
Okay, so you think it could be appropriate to put it on that list?
Yeah, right now the moratorium goes till
Yeah.
Because
Next-
council
next-
wants to examine its
Okay.
its options.
Right,
Yeah, June 30.
June 30th.
Yep.
Right.
Which is July.
Mr. Minor?
Should we consider placing that particular topic to the economic development? I cannot remember his title to save my life right now. Director versus the legislative committee. I think more of a task force approach. I had a conversation with a couple of folks up here about that versus the legislative committee to review the economic and social impact of those types of businesses.
So because it's new legislation, well, it's not really new yet. We're adding to our legislation. We can definitely have our we can have him present, and we can review with him as well at this meeting. So that's a good idea. Perfect. And as soon as we create the committee, we'll send out, the date of when it will be, and anybody's welcome to these committee meetings. Even if you're not on that committee, you're definitely welcome to come to those meetings. Okay? Ms. Talbot.
And this may be out of order because it seems that we've passed, but since we're talking about economic development, I did do some research on the fact that there are cities who do have economic development. I also have a handout I can pass out. But I, like Mr. King, think that this is more than, legislation actually puts it in writing, but I think there's a lot of analysis that needs to be done and homework to determine what the scope of the committee truly needs to be.
Right, so that's one of the things that Mr. Murphy and I talked about yesterday, and that's why we decided to refer it to a subcommittee as opposed.
A subcommittee, you
Yeah,
said? Okay.
Our legislative committee.
Okay.
And then all of this will be discussed in that meeting before it comes back to council or referred back to council.
Okay.
So that would be something really important that you would want to, pass along to those people that are chairing that. If it may be you, but just so you know.
Right.
Okay?
Madam Chair, if I could
Mayor?
just, and just for Kathy and King, if you're not on the committee, that doesn't mean you don't come and share your input.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
Right.
to any of the meetings, and that goes for obviously
Everyone.
anybody on council.
Okay. Are there any further comments? All right. So this evening, we do not have any motions. So I'm looking for new business from council. Any comments or new business?
Madam Chair?
Mr. Balestria?
I apologize. One thing I forgot to mention in my report was the dye testing program. During the meeting, Mr. Cherney said that they were onto the private properties and was attempting to get that done by the end of December. I don't know if it was completed yet, but just so you folks know that there were a large percentage of properties that were found where the problems with the backflow resided on the properties themselves. Okay, not city-related issues, but private property. So I don't have those exact numbers yet, and he hasn't gotten those to the committee and to council, but just so you're aware that a lot of the issues were on private property.
Was it just over in the Marnell area, or do they venture off to the other streets? Some of the, there was a whole list of,
You'd have to ask Joe.
Okay.
But the ones that were designated and those folks that requested.
okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Thank you. I'd just like to take a moment to thank the mayor for my reappointment and to say that the BZA will not be meeting tomorrow.
Okay.
Just in time. So thank you, and I would like to say congratulations, and it's a good ride.
Yeah. Thank you. On that good note, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Balestria.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Sabetta. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, everyone. We are now adjourned.